Good morning, everybody. This is Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I have lots of great stuff to go over with you today, and I always go over the stats. And I was contacted this week, or was speaking to this week, one of my lifetime customers is what I call them, people that I work with all the time and everything like that. And he said to me, he said, "Hey, did you see CBS News? And they just said that the foreclosures are up in Orlando by 20% year over year." And so he said, "So look out for a foreclosure home for me." So I said, "Sure, I'll be happy to, but let me let you know what the stats really are and what's going on." So basically, when it comes to single family homes, there are 39 on the market out of 8,958 homes. So there's 8,958 homes on the market right now, and 39 of them are foreclosures. And that's in the counties of Lake, Orange, Osceola, and Seminole combined. And so he said, maybe that's not exactly what I'm looking for because there might not be as many on the market as I thought. And he's in that price range that's probably about 600. So between 500 and a million, there's a total of 9 on the market between those 4 counties. So that's what I always am amazed at when you're looking at stats and people are looking at them and saying, "Hey, this is what's going on in the market," and all of that kind of good stuff. And so that's why it's really important to me to go over the stats every week with you guys so that you know what's really going on and you can judge it for yourself because you can hear them week to week and know, hey, that sounds pretty similar to what it was last week and everything, or if it changes, because for the last few years, ever since the interest rates went up, our prices have stayed pretty similar. Maybe it changes a little bit in, from one price point to another. The list to ask price ratio hasn't changed a whole lot. It went from like 98, 99% probably in general, that now this week it is at, well, it's down a little bit this week. This week it is at 90, no. Yeah, 96.54. So it's down a little bit. I was looking at the lower one, which is under 250 at 93.23, which you guys always know that one is a little bit lower if you listen to the show. So basically, real estate is so local. You have to keep that in mind. But just getting trends and what's going on in the market and everything, it's really important. I've got one gentleman that I'm working with that he's definitely one of my lifetime customers, that he also has a house in Pennsylvania, and he's kind of rebuilding that right now. So he sold his house here and he's temporarily renting, and he definitely doesn't want to be squeezed out of the market. So we're kind of watching it to see what's going on because he doesn't want to get into a situation where it gets to the point where it's a bidding war. He's going to jump back in before that all happens. And but right now he's got a lot of stuff going on up north, and so he is he sold his house up there, and then he and his wife are building a new house up there, and they had the original plans and what it was going to come in at, and it's changed quite a bit. And so he just wants to make sure that he's doing, he's paying attention up there and not paying attention down here right now. So basically, it's just made his life easier. So he sold his house that he had down here, and he's actually renting right now on a month-to-month basis until he gets that project done. Then he's going to jump back in. But my point is that I think that it's really important for people to know, that there are times when the market's going to change. Right now, we're heading into and just barely into that buyer's market, and we're definitely there in the condos, townhomes, and villas, but we're still hanging out kind of in a normal market when it comes to the houses and everything that are out there. So, but in specific neighborhoods, might be a little bit different. So it's always good for me to look at whatever you want to know, see, and then we'll take it from there. But basically, when we're coming down to it this week, there were 428 homes sold this week, up from 304 the week before, which the week before was a little bit low because it should be usually about 350. This was the end of the week, end of the month, because the dates are from October 26th to November 1st. So it's always higher at the end of the month. The median price, it was at 4.25, so right within that same range of where we're always at. Basically, the inventory increased by 117 and is now at 89.58. So this week, it's a little bit higher of numbers. So our months of inventory are going to be a little bit lower than they were last week, but we're at 4.83. So 5 months of inventory roughly, and between 4 and 6 is considered a normal market. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Now, when you're looking under 250, it's only 3.21 months of inventory, 3.6 months of inventory between 250 and 300, 4 months, 3.96 between 3 and 4, 5.27 between 4 and 5, 5.8 between 500 and a million, and 6.62 when we go over a million. So that's kind of what happened this week. Now, the number of houses that sold, 428 were the total. 46 of them were under 250, 34 between 250 and 300, 111 between 3 and 4, 81 between 4 and 5, 500 and a million, there were 125, and then 31 over a million. So that's kind of what's happened. So basically, when you're looking at that list to ask price ratio, under 250, it's at 93.28. It's still a little low from 250 to 300 at 95.88. Then we go to 97.78, 98%, all the way across until we get to over a million at 94.83. So you might ask me, why do you think that is and why does that work that way? And basically the bottom line is, in my opinion, is that the list to ask price ratio in those median price of the home, basically they're all about 98%, and the reason is because those houses are priced appropriately. There's quite a few people that are looking in there, and so the sellers are kind of holding out from that. On the lower end of the spectrum, if it's under 300 kind of at this point in time, usually those houses need some work. There's a reason that those houses are under 300 when the median price is at 420. And so most of the time those houses need work, and so they're not going to get top dollar for it. People are going to offer less than asking when there needs to be work. It just seems to be what happens. Then on the other end of the spectrum, over a million, what happens there is that people are looking for the deal. A lot of times people are obviously overpricing their house in regards to what people will pay. And it comes down to that when someone's buying a house, usually over $1 million, they want to spend a little bit of money making it their own, whether they're changing the floor, the kitchen, the bathrooms, the paint colors, all of that kind of stuff. It usually comes up to about 10% of the purchase price or more that they're going to spend on that. And so they're going to try to negotiate that out of the fee. And they generally do. And that's what they get and all of that kind of good stuff. And so basically, when it comes down to it, that's the other reason why those prices, when you're getting on that higher end, have a little bit more negotiating room. And so that's kind of our market in a nutshell. It hasn't changed this week. So we're all very, very similar when it comes to that. And I'll talk about the condos, townhomes, and villas next. But basically, when it comes down to it, looking at the trends, looking at what they're going is really what you need to do to make an informed decision, maybe when you want to pull the trigger, when you want to sell your house, whatever you want to do. And I think it's really important. But in order to make, to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I was talking about the stats of the single-family homes in our first segment, and now I'm going to get to the condos, townhomes, and villas in regards to what's going on. And they are definitely a little bit different of an animal today in this environment. I think that part of it comes down to the monthly fees and everything that exists out there. Part of it comes down to the failure of that property that in Surfside, that there are a lot of special assessments and all of that kind of stuff. Now that happened about 5 years ago, I believe, maybe even getting close to 6 now. And basically the bottom line is that so a lot of those studies have been done. A lot of the deferred maintenance has been identified. The special assessments are getting behind us. And I do think that some of these condos the fees are going to be coming down from what people are telling me. Now, these are people that are on boards and all of that kind of stuff, but they're not down yet. And so, it's kind of, maybe it will, maybe it won't, but that's kind of what the people in the know are telling me, but time will tell. So basically, the number that sold last week was 110 versus 82 the week before. The median price is 250,000, which is down a little bit, which is still within our range of what it is. So you're looking at 250,000 for a condo, townhome, or villa on the median one versus 4.25. So you're talking about 175,000 roughly is the difference, a little bit less than that, but so it's quite a difference in regards to affordability. So that's a lot of times why people want to do it. Sometimes they don't want to take care of the stuff that's going on outside, the lawn, the roof, the painting of the building. All of those kinds of things are usually included in the condo fee. So basically that's kind of what comes down to. Now, I was talking in the first segment that there were foreclosures that are in the market, and the big story that came out on the national news, I guess it was, that the foreclosures in Orlando were up 20% year over year, and right now there's 39 on the market. And when it comes to single family homes, and there's a whopping 16 in condos out of 4,346, and 16 of them are foreclosures. So I wouldn't call that, I mean, I'm sure it's up 20%, but it was at basically nothing. I mean, most people had equity in their properties. So before it went to foreclosure, you could sell it. You could sell it, getting rid of all of your equity and everything like that, but you didn't have to have a foreclosure. So, the foreclosure number used to be maybe 3 or 4 that were on the market. Now it's 30 or 40, but that's out of 4 counties. So not a big number, but there are ones that are on the market and all of that kind of good stuff. So of the 110 that sold, though, looking at the condos, townhomes, and villas, and looking at that, there were 52 of them under 250, 16 between 250 and 300, 31 between 3 and 400, 8, 4 and 5, 3, 500 to $1 million, and over $1 million. There weren't any that sold. So looking at the months of inventory here, even with the increase, we're looking at 9.12 months of inventory. Totally a buyer's market. So when you're under 250, there's 7.52, which is kind of on the low side. Then we go to 9.84 between 250 and 300. We go down a little bit between 3 and 4 at 8.26. But 400 to 500,000, 15.2 months of inventory. 500 to $1 million, 24 months of inventory. And over $1 million, nothing sold, and there are 20 on the market, not a whole lot necessarily, but if nothing's selling, then, and even if one a week did, that would be 20 months of inventory. No, it wouldn't. It would be 5. So we're probably somewhere in around that 10 or 15 because there wasn't any that sold last week and there's none this week. So probably 2 a month maybe are selling of that 20, so that would still give us over a year's of inventory. So if you do own a condo, townhome, or villa, you do need to price it very aggressively in order to get people to look at it and in order to get people to sell it, and to buy it. And so that's basically what the bottom line is. So you would think, oh my gosh, we totally have a lot more negotiating power when it comes to that. And you do a little bit, 95.65 versus the 96 something that was on the single family homes. But under 250, they were at 93.36, again on the lower end. 96.5 when it comes to 250 to 300. And then we go to 97, we stay at 96, and everything's 96.58, even on the 500 to a million. So basically, when it comes down to it, the prices are still kind of holding their own, as you can see in the in how everything's going around and all of that kind of good stuff. But you do need to be aggressive. And honestly, I had 2 townhouses that were on the market, and both of them went under contract, one of them in 2 weeks and the other in 1 week. And basically it came down to that the sellers were very aggressive in listening to me and knowing that it mattered. In one of them, there were, I think there's 10 other properties that were on the market that were just like it, and we sold it in a week. And basically, it is that one actually is in a short-term rental community, and the situation with that is that was only available 3 days to look at this week because they had guests in it on both weekends, and so that's kind of what the scoop is on it. That it sometimes they're limited to see and that kind of stuff too if they're in a short-term rental community, which all of them are not. One of them I sold was, and one of them was not. But basically, when it comes down to it, you definitely have to be aggressive when it comes to selling a condo, townhome, or villa, in my opinion, in this market. And the numbers just show you that you do, because basically when it comes down to it, there are a lot of options out there. So if you're looking, like I said, in the one development, there were quite a few other units that were for sale in that same development, and people were coming and looking at the one that I had. It has to do a lot with our marketing. It has to do with what pictures you're going to show, what the professional photos that you're going to have taken, the description that you write about it, the places that I advertise it, the things that I do that are proprietary to Your Home Sold that make it stand out and go to that next level. And basically, when you're looking at it, you really need to look at the whole story when it comes to selling your property in regards to what you want to do, how you want to do it, and all of that kind of good stuff. And unfortunately, there are a lot of sellers out there, which I'm sure when it came to my house and what I was doing, in my heart, I think, oh, my house is worth so much more. But basically, when it comes down to it, you do have to be realistic about it. It's an emotional decision for you as the seller, but when the buyer's coming in there, it's not emotional for them yet. And to even see it, to become even a little bit emotional, which is a lot of the way that buyers do make their buying decision, they have to see the property, and they're not going to see it if you're not priced appropriately. So I can't say that it's necessarily an easy thing to do or whatever when you're coming down to it, but it is a business decision, and the market is what it is. And I always tell people that we cannot change the market. The market is what it is. But what we can do is we can operate optimally within it, and that's what we consistently do. And so as a result of that, you're going to get the best deal. You're going to get the best price for your home. If whatever your situation is, that we're going to make sure that we're working in your best effort to make the best things happen for you. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. This is Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I was looking at some things this week, and the interest rate right now, they're like, oh, the interest rate went up. Another one of those kind of fake news, kind of things that's going on. They're like, it went from 6.17 to 6.22. So that's a change of, like 0.05%. So pretty minimal, but it went up for the first time in 3 weeks. So that's kind of what they're saying now. So they're saying, hey, the interest rates went up, which when you look at it in context, it's not very much. We're much closer to 6 and straight 6 than we are to 7, and we were at 7 and in the 7s. And so basically I'm thankful for the 6s. When we go to the 5s and we get down to about 5, that's when they think that the market will really open up. You can actually get loans today though at 5 if you'd like to, and that would include buying down the rate. And so maybe you would do that by asking the seller for closing costs. Maybe you've got some extra money and that kind of stuff that you would want to do that for. Now, if you are going to do that, the most important thing to look at is there's a couple of reasons why people would do that. One thing would be affordability, that you're looking at it, that if I buy that down, then I'm going to be able to afford the house at that price. And so that would be one way to look at it and one reason to do it. The other thing is, depending on how long you're planning on being in that house. So if you're going to buy down the rate, for example, and you plan on being in that house for 2 years, it might not be worth it to do it, because the amount that it's going to cost you to buy down that rate for 30 years is what you're doing. You may not do that. So they do have some adjustable products out there that you can get that are good for 10 years at a lower rate and 5 years at a lower rate. And for example, I do have one lifetime customers that I work with, and he definitely buys and sells about every year to 18 months. And I don't see that changing. It's like he's like, oh, this is going to be my forever home. And then he, after about 12 to 18 months, he's like, no, this isn't what I want. And so he just likes the change. He likes to fix things up. He likes to get things going, and he buys houses that are already in really good shape. But there's just his own, certain things that he wants to put into it. And so he does. He makes them better, and then he sells them. So basically buying down the rate for him for 30 years wouldn't make sense, because he's paying for 30 years of buy down, but only going to probably use it for a couple of years. Say he goes beyond double of what he normally does, that's only 4 years. So an adjustable rate loan for someone like that might be a better option for what you want to do. So basically it comes down to that, finding the right product for you. And we have some great lenders that we work with that can definitely help you navigate through those waters. From my understanding, and, is that when you do get a loan and you're shopping for one and that kind of stuff, there are a lot of people that concern, they go, oh, so many pulls on my credit report are going to lower my credit score. And another thing that I have been told, and I could be completely wrong, is that when you're shopping a loan, they know that. And so if they see like pulls from multiple mortgage companies, they know that you're actually shopping it. And so that doesn't affect the rate other than just like one being pulled. They know you're not going to take 5 loans on the same property, because that wouldn't be allowed. But they definitely, are just checking it out to see kind of what's going on. So when you're checking out loans, though, there's something that you need to know, that there are a lot of options and everything out there. When it comes to conventional financing, if it's a primary residence and all of that kind of things, you can get loans as low as 3 to 5% down. And so it's not near as much as you might have thought. If you're getting an FHA loan, It's 3.5% down is the lowest that you can go. You can obviously put more down, but there are those opportunities if you're a veteran, and we've got Veterans Day coming up this week. So I just want to shout out to all the veterans and say thank you for your service. But basically, there is a program out there, the VA loan, that you can get 100% financing on a house that you're buying. And the other thing that's great about a VA loan is what happens with it is that the VA comes in and they do an inspection, and they want to make sure that the house is in good shape for that veteran. So that's another advantage that's out there for the veterans out there. And then there's another product that's by the USDA. So this is not going to be easy to find in Orange County that you can get any properties that qualify for it. But in the the counties around, there are still some USDA financing out there. And that's 100% financing. You'll find a lot of builders when they're building properties in new areas that they will do USDA financing. And so they're advertising 100% down, 100% financing. And basically that's because they do have that USDA product that's out there that might give you the best deal. But the thing is that you do need to shop it, because when you shop it, you're going to be able to find out, if FHA is your best way to go. There is some mortgage insurance that's included with an FHA loan. If you go with with a conventional, there may or may not be mortgage insurance that's included. So really, it makes sense for you to actually look at what's going on, see what's out there, what makes sense for you, and then you can make the decision. Now, when I say shop it, in many cases, you could just shop it with one or two specific lenders, 3 at the most, because they all have multiple packages that you can go with. One lender that we work with, they actually work with, I think it's about 400 different banks and products and that kind of stuff that they have out there. So if you just take one credit pull with them, and they're going to shop your loan with all of these different places to see what the best deal is, and then they're going to present a couple of options to you that you can choose from. So that's what happens in today's market in regards to what happens. And so I think it's really pretty good when all of that happens, so that you're able to see what the best deal actually is for you and your family and your situation. If it's something of a rate buy down, if it's some kind of an adjustable rate loan for 5 or 10 years or something that is something that you want to look at, then that's something that you can definitely do as well. But it comes down to really finding the best possible situation for you and your family, and then going from there. And then there are also all those people out there that are paying cash, and that's all great and everything as well. With that, you might have a little bit more negotiating power, but you really don't have as much negotiating power as you think. A lot of times people think, oh, I'm paying cash, and so I'm special and I should get a lot cheaper rate. And sometimes you might, but basically the bottom line is that most of the time cash is the market. There's about 27% of our market that's cash. If it was 2 or 3%, you would definitely stand out. But when you're at 25%, 27%, then basically that is not something that, you're definitely going to stand out and gonna get a much better deal, because there are other cash buyers right there right along with you, and so you're all competing against one another. So it comes down to really finding the right price, the right place. And the best thing that I think is to do out there is to find something that nobody else is looking at, and that's where you're going to get your best deal. And where we do that is we do that on off-market properties. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about this last segment. And so, but in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com. And we'll see you after the break. Bye-bye. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. 2555. That's 407 566 2555. So I wanted to go over off-market properties because that's kind of my favorite way to find a buyer a property. I mean, of course, if I've got a property on the market that matches what you're looking for, I'll guarantee the sale of your house if you buy one of those houses. And I definitely want you to buy the houses that I have on the market for sure. And I definitely do a lot of things to make sure that happens. But if I'm working with a buyer and one of my listings isn't one of those that they're going to purchase, then I'm an off-market property girl. I love to find off-market properties. It is one of my favorite things to do, to find that needle in the haystack that nobody else can find or didn't know exist. Because guess what? When you find that, you're going to get the best price, right? Because it's one of those anomalies out there that nobody knows about. And so basically, you're in a vacuum. You're not going to be competing with a cash buyer. You're not going to be competing with another person that's looking to buy a house in that neighborhood. And so basically, that's what it comes down to in regards to what you want to do and how you want to do it. So that is by far my favorite thing to do, is to actually find people off market properties. And so that's, like I said, so you might say, well, how do you go about that, Laura? And I remember I was at a conference. I like to go to real estate conferences and to study and to learn, and in masterminds with the best people that are out there in order to do that. And these are people that have sold billions of dollars of real estate. And basically, when it comes down to it, it's like, I was talking to one of them the other day, and it comes down to that, you may have made more mistakes than you had successes, because that's how it is in life. Nothing is ever perfect. But basically, when it comes down to it, if you can show that you can do the best that you can and do better than the average person. For example, when you're looking at it, the average on the properties that go on the market, 64% of them are sold on the MLS, and that's kind of a fact that came from the MLS. 64% of them are sold, but my percentage is 87%. So you've got a lot better chance working with me than just picking anybody off of the MLS. And the fact that I even know my statistics obviously helps me as well. But my point is that when it comes down to it, there are times where we're all going to, not get 100%. You can't get 100% in hardly anything here in life. You don't, when somebody's throwing a football, they're not 100% gonna make that pass happen. When people are playing baseball, they're not going to get 100% of the times at bat that they're going to make a connection. The pitcher's not going to have 100% strikeouts. All of those kinds of things. Nothing is 100%. You can just look at sports to see. And so, we keep score in regards to what's going on so that we're aware of it. But that the guy that I was talking to that has sold recently, that has sold billions of dollars in real estate, he's like, I've learned from my mistakes or from the losses as much, if not more, than from the successes. And I would definitely agree with that as well. And so I've learned how to find off-market properties for buyers. In this market, maybe you don't need that off-market property, but you'd be surprised you really do, because even though we're in a normal market where there are more choices than there were several years ago, when we were down to a half a month of inventory, now we're at about 5 months of inventory. Okay, that's 10 times the houses that you can look at, but it still might not be the one that you're looking for. It might not have all of those specific things that you need. So, and you might say, well, maybe if I pay more money, maybe it's not about paying more money. Maybe it's just about finding more houses. But basically, this billion-dollar, realtor that I was talking to, he said that, he was told me that he was talking to somebody and he was flying into Phoenix, and this person said, oh, our market in Phoenix, we just don't have the houses available, and I'm having a hard time with finding a house for some of these buyers. And he said to him, well, I just flew in and I saw thousands of houses, that were out there. And his point was, and it's absolutely true, is that there are people out there that want to sell that are not on the market. I've got a guy right now that called me and he said, Laura, I have 2 houses of mine that I want to sell, and I want to sell them in January, but I don't want to put them on the market unless they're going to sell right away at the price that I want. But he does want to sell. So if the right buyer came around and offered him a price, he would absolutely take it. And so there are a lot of people out there like that. And the reason he doesn't want to put it on the market is because he said, I don't want those days on the market to count against me. He said people are going to, if it goes on for more than a month or whatever, people are going to look at that house and they're going to say, what's wrong with it? Why isn't it selling? All of those kinds of things. And there are a lot of variables in regards to what's going on in regards to why a house is sitting on the market. I mean, if we've got 5 months of inventory, basically there are other houses that are competing. If we've got, 20 months of inventory, which we do in some price points in condos, I mean, I'm sorry, but they might not even make it to your house. And so, or your property. So basically it comes down to then that property that's out there, it looks negative to somebody. Why has it been sitting here so long and what's wrong with it? It might not have anything wrong with it. It could have a seller that's not allowing showings. It could have a tenant that doesn't want to have showings. It could it could have been priced too high. There are a lot of things. It could be not with the right realtor. There are a lot of variables that go into it, and it might have nothing to do with the house. And so basically it comes down to that you've got to have somebody, if you're a buyer, that's going to bird dog and look for the best situation for you and your family. And like right now, if you are in the market and you want a new home construction, now is the time. There are some builders that their year end is November 30th. You can still get a loan and close by November 30th. And if you do, guess what? They are giving huge bonuses, huge reductions, huge everything that they can, because their fiscal year ends November 30th. There's a lot of other builders that close December 31st. Guess what? They're giving huge bonuses too, because they want their year to look really good. So every year at this point in time, there is a huge fire sale on those new construction houses. They've got as many of them done as they can so that they can absolutely close them and move them. And they're going to give all kinds of bonuses in order to get that done quickly. So if you're in that position and you're ready to make a move, I would say to do it now. The other side of the coin, though, is that what I do, getting back to, off-market properties, is that I find what you're looking for, and then I go after those particular houses. And I just do it inobtrusively and everything like that, but I find out if they're interested in selling. And every time that I have done this, I have been successful in finding an off-market property for my buyers. And so it works really good. And then they find the house that they were really looking for. They didn't settle for something that they didn't want. They got exactly what they wanted. And it's really important to get that situation going. I was talking to a family this week that I was meeting with, and basically, they have a house in College Park, and they decided that they wanted to travel. So they rented out their house, and they were hoping they could do it Airbnb, but in that area you cannot. So they got a long-term rental. So they went ahead and they traveled for a while, and then they came back and they're like, oh, well, we need to be here for a month or so. And it would be really nice if it was an Airbnb property so that they could go ahead and rent it out when they're not there, but then when they come here, they have a place to come. And he said, right now we're in a hotel, so we'd really like to have a place that's like our home base. And so they're looking at that short-term rental community that are down, in Kissimmee and Davenport, and all of those kinds of places are where the most of those Airbnb houses are, because they're going to have lots of opportunities to rent it out, to find exactly, a place where they feel comfortable, where they want to stay, and they've decided on the community that they want to be in and everything. And now they just, have to make it work. Well, if nothing's on the market, then we have to go to that next step and find one that is for them. And so that's absolutely what I love to do, and can do that for you too. So I didn't get into a lot of the details, and now I've run out of time. But in order to get in touch with us, all you have to do is call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you next week. Have a great one, everybody. Bye-bye.